All right, thank you. My goodness, what a time that has been. I don't even know where to start. I was in Santa Fe last week. Had a wonderful time there. As I don't remember if I mentioned, Heather's out there for a month. Her spiritual home, Upaya Zen Center, is in Santa Fe. She did a 1-week silent retreat, and she's spending 3 more weeks there working at her job during the day and then participating at things at the Zen Center whenever possible, evenings, mornings. They always have something going on. So we had dinner with her teacher and her teacher's husband. So these are 2 Zen priests, over 70, not sure exactly how old, and it was delightful to spend time with them. And what I noticed more than anything is that we're all on the same page with all of this. And there is really only one thing that we do, and that is return our attention within to the presence of the Spirit that is within us. Now we practice this, the easiest way is a breath awareness, right? You can spend your entire life just doing a breath awareness meditation, and it would serve you very well. I've expanded it into always a pray without ceasing breath awareness. Every time it occurs to me, I bring my awareness to my breath, knowing that I can still function perfectly in the world while I'm aware of my breath, right? And we might say that the Spirit, really, the Spirit is the stillness underneath our breath. But if we bring our attention to our breath, we're right there. We're this close to it. Ken Wilber said that awakening, so-called enlightenment, that realization that we are not our thoughts, that we are the stillness, that awakening is an accident, and meditation makes us accident prone. I have a daily reader Thich Nhat Hanh calendar that was a gift. It's wonderful. And today says, meditation is for everyone and not just the person who meditates. I guarantee you that that is the case, because just being in the presence of these 2 people who have been practicing 50 years at least, and they were just as wonderful and joyful and fallible as we are. And they have a mind that gets mad at the driver in front of them too. And what do? They return to their center over and over and over. That's all we need to do. I had a teacher say, you're either doing the practice or you're not doing the practice. That's it. You're not doing it wrong. You're not doing it right. You're doing it or you're not doing it. And I want to talk today about mindfulness. It's really awareness. It's an intention. It's exercising our power to choose where our attention goes. Because usually our attention is in the story in our mind, and people are competing all over for it. Right? And it's anywhere but right here and right now. So when we choose to bring our attention to our breath, we are learning to pay attention. Right? Learning to pay attention. Those 2 words, pay attention, could be a teaching of a lifetime. Just that. My firewalking instructor, that was his primary thing. Pay attention. Because when you pay attention intentionally, you bring yourself to where the Spirit is. And yes, you still have thoughts and it's still happening. We're not trying to stop that. We're trying to focus on our breath and allow our mind just to be our mind. Right? The Dalai Lama has a mind that wanders, I guarantee you. Yet he has practiced this for a lifetime. And you feel it when you're in the presence of someone who does this. So I invite you to take up that daily practice. The theme for my message today is that our assumptions shape our experience and our beliefs define our world. We want to be mindful of our assumptions. Just say aware. We want to be aware of our assumptions and our beliefs, and not make the mistake of thinking that that's who we are, or that our beliefs are somehow immutable truths. Right? A belief is a thought that I hold to be true. Have you ever had a belief and then later a different belief? Beliefs change. Right? They're thoughts that we have decided are true. A belief has also been defined as a thought that you keep thinking. You think a thought over and over and over, it becomes a belief. That's right in line with the very human truth that a good story gets repeated, and a repeated story gets believed. I didn't say it was a true story. It doesn't need to be. It needs to be a good story. What's a good story? One that gets repeated. What happens when a story gets repeated? It gets believed. Take a deep breath of that. A belief is not an immutable thing, and they can and do change. So can we be mindful of our beliefs as just that? Thoughts that we hold to be true. Thoughts that we have decided are true. I want to share a couple scriptures, and then I have a story that I want to share about this. In Matthew 7, you know this one, do not judge so that you may not be judged. For the judgment you give will be the judgment you get, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. Whatever you decide the world is, that's the world you're going to get. Right? If you want to live in a world of peace, cultivate peace within yourself, and you will find yourself living in a world of peace. Hafiz said, the words you speak become the house you live in. Is that not the same truth? The words you speak become the house you live in. Keep saying something over and over, and that is your world. And this anonymous quote, you've heard it from me many times, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. All right, I want to share this story that I heard recently. It's called The Cookie Thief. It was written by Valerie Cox. It rhymes. So get ready. A woman was waiting in an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shops, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man sitting beside her, as bold as could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between them, which she tried to ignore to avoid the scene. So she munched the cookies and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I'd blacken his eye. With each cookie she took, he took one too. When only one was left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half. As he ate the other, she snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve, and he's also rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She had never known when she had been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at that thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat, then sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached into her baggage, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her. If mine are here, she moaned in despair, the others were his, and he tried to share. Too late to apologize. She realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. How many times in our lives have we absolutely known that something was a certain way, only to discover later what we believed to be true was not? That's The Cookie Thief by Valerie Cox. I'll say it again. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Assumption has power. Emerson said, people only see what they're prepared to see. Can you see that there is a common message underneath all of these wise thinkers and spiritual leaders? We only see what we're prepared to see. Now this reminds me, of course, in a metaphysical sense, of our third unity principle, which reads, we're co-creators with God, actively creating our world through thoughts held in mind. Right? We are co-creating our world. If you look around the world and don't like what you see, I invite you to co-create a different world. And it always begins within. That doesn't mean that we don't step out in service. We absolutely do. As I shared a couple weeks ago, we move back and forth. We do our inner work. We step out in service into the world. Right? We inhale to bring in that which we need. We exhale as we step out in the world to help others. You do both alternately, over and over again. Just like we return our awareness to our breath, we return to our inner practice, we do our inner work, we step out in the world in service, having done our inner work. co-creating our world. The woman in the poem was caught in her thoughts, unaware of what was really happening. So the takeaway here from the story is to practice observing rather than reacting. One of our meditation attendees shared this morning an impact that the practice has had on their life, and the story was in a meeting, which they do as part of their work. They practice this breath awareness, which you can do anywhere. Right? You can still drive down the road and be aware. You can have kind of one foot in each world, if you will. One foot in the realm of the spirit. That's anchored to your breath, your awareness of your breath. The other foot in the manifest world on the gas pedal, in this example. And what they said about it was, they noticed that when they're in meetings, everything is just slowed down a little bit. All is well. There's no reason to hurry. Someone could say something when before they might have just jumped in with a response. You can pause. It might feel like an eternity. But it might only be one breath and one in, and then respond rather than react. Right? This practice is not just for those of us who do it. It's for everyone, as Thich Nhat Hanh said. Imagine the impact on that meeting when one calm-centered person comes in and responds in that way. It changes the whole tone. Right? We have the power to change the world, and it begins within us, one moment at a time. This practice can also help bring grace and humility into our lives. When we realize our mistakes, and we all make them, notice, how do you respond to them? With guilt or with grace? Because you have a choice there once again. I remember realizing at some point, I probably heard someone say it, but it really stuck with me. You know that voice in your mind that shakes its finger at politicians and people in the grocery store smell like weed or whatever it might be for you? That's the same voice that turns on you in the middle of the night. Right? You created it, believe it or not. Or it came to you from someone else that is not yours, but you believed it. Right? You made it yours. Well, you can unmake it yours. So as you make the decision to stop judging what you see, condemning really is the word I should use, but rather offering some semblance of grace. Here's an easy way. I know this to be true everywhere. If I had all the same life experiences that that person had, I'd be doing exactly what they're doing right now. Right? In unity terms, we recognize that every experience is a mirror for us and an opportunity for us to grow. We can think of this as living with curiosity instead of judgment or condemnation. You know, the word judgment's touchy. Does it mean discernment or does it mean condemnation? It's one of those two usually. I think what we're saying here is I want to live with curiosity. I wonder what's going to happen next. I wonder what happened in that person's life that brought them to this point. Knowing that truth that if I had had all of the same life experiences that person had, I'd very likely be doing exactly what they're doing. When we choose an attitude or an approach of curiosity rather than condemnation, not only does it help us in our life, it helps everyone around us because there's then one less person going around condemning others. Right, we probably have just about enough of that. I'm thinking of a story. So I'm a volunteer chaplain with the Richland County Sheriff's Department. And on my very first, at this point only ride-along that I did, I showed up around 5, which is shift change, 12-hour shifts. And I told them, I'll stay to maybe 8, 8:30. You know, that was my intention. So I rode around with the deputy during that time, and we did some things. And I did my part, which is holding the stillness. Right? What do you do as a chaplain. You constantly bring your awareness back to that still point in your breath as you show up for others, taking everything in with openness and curiosity, right? Not judgment or condemnation. And there are some not good things that happen. I don't know why this happened, but 8:30 rolled around. We were back at the substation where my car was parked. And I said to the guy, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to go home and watch TV, right? Heather's out of town. There's nothing going on. The cats will be there when I get there. So why don't I hang out a little bit longer? Within a half hour, we got a call, and it was a shooting. And it was bad. I've never personally been at a place where something like that has happened. And I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but it shook me greatly. It took me 2 days of processing it internally and with every member of my support network. All my spirit weirdo friends who know what it means to practice active listening without fixing. Right? I shared that story over and over and over, and after a couple days it lifted, meaning my mind wasn't constantly going back to that place. And part of what I was thinking was, what on earth led these people to this place where they thought this was a good idea. This is what we should do next, is kill this person, which they did. What? Well, I can't even imagine what that life must have been like. Right? And they were teenagers. There's 4 of them. Only one was over 18, and 2 were 15. What on earth is going on? This was in Irma. That's the town I lived in. What on earth is going on? So I had my literal chaplain hat on, but I put my metaphysical and spiritual chaplain hat on as well, and thought, wouldn't it be nice if I never even knew this happened? Wouldn't life be easier? This happens. And I have been called to, and I show up in support of these deputies that see this. Something like this does not happen every day. But if something like this does happen, it's not surprising to anybody. Right? In our little town, I'm talking about Richland County. This is just one region within Richland County. So I recognized that I was being called to practice what I preach, right? Which is to return to that still point within me. To see, can I practice curiosity instead of condemnation? It is very easy to condemn the people who did this. I can do that all day long. I've done that my whole life. I don't need to do that anymore. Right? I got that. That's right there. I don't need any more practice. I'm a professional. I'm good at it, as I think we all are. What do I need? I need to choose differently and ask myself. This is an unanswerable question. I'm not going to go literally try and find an answer. The question is, what must have happened to bring these people to that point in time? That this whole thing is a tragedy, all around. And not, for the people who did it, who are going to prison, no doubt. They arrested all of them, which I was glad to see. It was radio silence. I thought, I'm going to hear about this on the news tomorrow. Nope. Next day, nope. It was eating me up. Like, I realized I need closure. What happened? Well, later, they released a statement. They found and arrested all of the people involved. Right? But can I just be open and curious about it? The law enforcement's there. I don't need to get angry so that they go to prison. There's a whole system in place for this. I don't need to contribute to it. Whatever needs to happen in our justice system will happen. They don't need me adding to the fury or the upset. What about the families of all these people? These things have ripple effects. One person was killed, one injured. I'm sure the injured person is going to recover. Can you imagine you were there in that car? Where the person next to you, are you going to recover from that? How? How can I support that? By being curious and not condemning in the world. By bringing my mind back to the stillness underneath my breath. Right? To remembering what Thich Nhat Hanh said, meditation is for everyone, not just the person who meditates. For recognizing that in any tragedy, any occurrence, there is in the very center of it a powerful opportunity for healing as well in there. Can I be mindful of that at the same time? Can I choose curiosity instead of condemnation? And I invite you to do that from this point forward. I offer this practice, this pray without ceasing practice, where in every moment of your life, you can have a sitting practice with a bell and a candle, all that. Do that. But also, in addition to that, whenever it occurs to you, bring your awareness to your breath. Do it right now. One breath in, one breath out. Eckhart Tolle said, if you do this, anytime it occurs to you, it will change your life. He's absolutely right. I know it. So take this up whenever it occurs to you. You might go for hours. This happens to me hours, and I realize it has not occurred to me almost all day to watch my breath. Well, you don't owe anyone anything. It's like tithing. If you start tithing and then you get fearful and stop and you start tithing again, you don't have to back tithe. This is not the IRS. No one's coming after you. Right? You just begin again, right here and right now. Same with this ongoing practice. I realize I haven't noticed my breath all day. Man, I'm really not very good at this. It was a dumb idea anyway. I could think that, right? Or I could think, oh, right. What a joy it is to return my attention to my breath. Thank you, Spirit, I'll do it right now. And then do it. And keep coming back, keep coming back. And then respond, don't react, respond from that place as you engage the world in loving service. And if you feel like, well, I don't know if I'm engaging the world in loving service, we are filled with opportunities to do that. I got a list right here at the church. Come see me afterward. I'm going to close with this affirmation. Really, let these words land. I see clearly with love. Another way of saying what I've been saying. I see clearly with love. I listen with an open heart, and I respond with wisdom. Let's say that together. I see clearly with love. I listen with an open heart, and I respond with wisdom. Take a deep breath. That was a heavy story. I didn't know if I was going to tell it or not. And relax as you exhale. And take another, even deeper breath. And relax even further as you exhale.